My family tried to kill me and called it drama. Now their lives are ashes and I'm unstoppable. They spun lies in court, played the victims, and called me unstable. But I brought receipts, scars, and a voice they couldn't silence. Now I run a movement, and they live in disgrace. Before we continue, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. This will greatly help me with promotion. Thank you. Hi, I'm Sarah Bennett. And when my sister hit me with a wrench while my parents laughed and held me down, I didn't just survive. I made sure they never hurt anyone again. The fluorescent lights in the ER stung my eyes as I woke up, a metallic taste in my mouth and pain so deep it felt like my bones were screaming. A nurse's voice floated to me like I was underwater. Her face was kind, but her words sliced through the fog: fractured orbital bone, severe concussion, jaw damage. Then, "The police are here. They need to speak with you." That was the moment the memory came flooding back. My sister Rachel's face twisted in delight, the glint of the wrench in my mother's hand, and my father's grip like a vice on my wrist. I'd grown up the afterthought. The spare daughter. Rachel got everything: the attention, the affection, the BMW, while I got, "Maybe next year," and hand-me-down shoes with holes in them. But that night, when I dared to speak at a family dinner, dared to be something other than silent and small, it all unraveled. It started 4 weeks earlier. Rachel announced she'd be bringing her new boyfriend, Adam, to Sunday dinner. She was 28, the golden child, the one whose name made my parents light up like Christmas. I was the opposite, 26, working as a social worker in New Haven, paying off student loans, renting a tiny apartment, and still being ignored like a background character in my own family's story. When I pulled up to the house that day, Rachel's silver BMW was already in the driveway, gleaming in the spot closest to the door. Inside, Mom was setting the table with her special china, the set I wasn't even allowed to touch growing up. Dad barely glanced up from the football game. Rachel arrived late, of course, with Adam in tow. He was tall, expensive-looking, and introduced himself like someone used to being admired. "Senior investment banker at Goldman Sachs," Rachel announced, and I swear my mom looked ready to pass out from sheer pride. They didn't even pretend to acknowledge me. Dinner was Rachel's favorite, pot roast, which I hadn't eaten in years. I was a vegetarian, but my parents liked to pretend that didn't count. The conversation orbited Rachel and Adam like they were royalty. I sat at the end of the table, playing with my food, wondering how many more times I had to show up just to be invisible. Then Adam did something unexpected. He turned to me and said, "So, Sarah, what do you do?" The room went cold. "I'm a social worker," I said. "I work with at-risk youth." "Don't waste Adam's time with your boring stories," Mom snapped. "He's just being polite." And maybe I should have let it go. Maybe I should have shut up and stayed in my quiet corner. But something in me snapped, a tiny spark of defiance that had been buried under years of neglect. "Actually, it's really rewarding work." That's when the wrench hit. One moment I was speaking, the next I was on the floor, blood in my mouth, vision spinning, my mother standing over me, wrench in hand, eyes full of hate. Rachel laughed. Not awkward laughter. Real, delighted, cruel laughter. And Adam laughed too. "Hold her still," my mom said. Dad obeyed. Rachel raised the wrench again. I saw it coming, and then I saw nothing. I came to in the back of an ambulance, strapped to a gurney, with a paramedic hovering above me shouting, "Stay with me, Sarah! Stay awake!" His voice was urgent, and the siren above us screamed like my brain was trying to match the pitch. Every inch of my body hurt. My mouth was full of blood. My jaw wouldn't close properly. I tried to speak, but nothing came out but a gurgle. Later, I found out a neighbor, Mrs. Sanchez, who walked her dog every evening at the same time, had heard something. Maybe the crash of my chair hitting the floor. Maybe Rachel's laughter. Maybe just the ancient instinct that something terrible was happening behind closed doors. She looked in the dining room window and saw my mother with the wrench. Saw Rachel laughing. Saw my father holding me down. She did what no one else had ever done for me: she called the police. Detective Lauren Harris took my statement the next morning at the hospital. I could barely speak through the wire in my jaw and the swelling that made my face unrecognizable. But I told her everything. About the dinner. About the attack. About a lifetime of being treated like an unwanted guest in my own family. She didn't look shocked. Just angry. "I'll make sure they face consequences," she said. And I believed her. That was the day the storm began. Within 24 hours, all three of them, Mom, Dad, David, and Rachel, were arrested. Assault charges. Conspiracy charges. Attempted murder under review. Adam, the smug finance bro, was questioned as a witness but wouldn't stay that way for long. While the hospital patched me up, I started plotting. Pain meds made the days blurry, but the fury was sharp. Rage gave me focus. I didn't just want them locked up. I wanted them ruined. I called Michael Brooks. Family lawyer. Civil litigator. Married to a former coworker of mine and ruthless in the courtroom. He showed up at my hospital room with his sleeves rolled up, eyes hard. One look at my face and he said, "We're going to destroy them. All of them. Tell me everything." So I did. Not just about the night of the attack, but about everything. The birthdays forgotten. The scholarships they didn't help me apply for. The honor roll they didn't show up to. The college fund that mysteriously evaporated while Rachel drove off in her brand new BMW. "You got receipts?" Michael asked. "Better," I said. "I've got journals." I had started keeping them at 15. Every slight. Every lie. Every moment I wanted to scream but didn't. They were in storage, back in New Haven. I gave him the key, the unit number, and told him where to find the box marked personal. He brought them back the next day. And just like that, I had evidence. Michael read every word. He didn't flinch. He started building a case so airtight, the devil himself couldn't slither out. He subpoenaed school records, found my old pediatrician's notes, flagging possible emotional abuse, and interviewed neighbors who remembered seeing me outside alone for hours while Rachel had pool parties and sleepovers. Then he found the kicker. The college fund. My grandmother had left equal amounts for both of us. But only one account was ever used, for Rachel's tuition, and then, according to bank records, a down payment on her car. Michael looked up from the papers, jaw tight. "They stole your future to give Rachel a ride." The civil lawsuit was filed the next day. Meanwhile, the DA was moving full steam ahead on the criminal case. My family's high-priced attorneys started spinning wild stories, that it had been an accident, that I had fallen, that I was mentally unstable and had a history of self-harm. Too bad Mrs. Sanchez had a front-row seat to their sadistic little dinner theater. She testified to the grand jury. The photos of my face, the medical records, the 911 call transcript, it all added up. Indictments came down hard. Rachel, David, and my mother were charged with felony assault and conspiracy. Adam, who had stood by and laughed, got charged as an accessory. Their lives began to collapse. Rachel's job suspended her. David's construction company dropped him from their insurance policy. Mom got booted off her church board. But that wasn't enough. I didn't want silence. I wanted justice. And I wanted the whole world to know exactly who they were. 12 months after the attack, I walked into the courtroom with my jaw healed, my hair freshly cut, and the scars on my face bare for everyone to see. They wanted to erase me. Instead, I was standing here, unerasable. The criminal trial was brutal. Testifying meant dragging every piece of pain into the light, every betrayal, every insult, every moment that led to the night they almost killed me. I sat on the stand and told the jury how my mother handed my sister a wrench like it was a baton in some sick relay race. I described my father pinning me down as Rachel raised the wrench again. I spoke slowly, my voice calm, clear, unwavering. I had rehearsed it 100 times in therapy. But nothing prepared me for looking into their faces while I said it. Rachel looked defiant, like she still believed this was all just some big misunderstanding and that her charm would carry her through. Mom looked like a wilting flower, tears and tissues and faux frailness on full display. And David looked like an empty man. Like someone watching his entire life burn and realizing too late he'd lit the match himself. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty. On all counts. Rachel and Mom each got 6 years. David got 5. Adam got 2 years probation and 500 hours of community service. The moment the verdict was read, Rachel screamed, "You ruined my life, you bitter B***tch." The bailiff had to hold her back. I didn't flinch. I didn't even blink. After that, the civil trial preparations went into overdrive. And this time, we weren't just proving assault. We were proving a lifetime of emotional abuse, parental neglect, and systematic favoritism so severe it left psychological scars deeper than the ones on my face. Michael filed the lawsuit for $850,000. They scoffed. Their lawyers claimed it was excessive. That I was being vindictive. That money couldn't undo what had happened. Michael just smiled. "You're right," he said. "It can't. But it can sure as hell make them feel it." We subpoenaed everything: financial records, family photos, old report cards. We had expert witnesses. A child psychologist named Dr. Reynolds testified that I showed textbook symptoms of long-term scapegoat syndrome, depression, anxiety, eating disorders, chronic low self-worth. She learned to make herself small because expressing pain in her family was dangerous, Dr. Reynolds said. She wasn't parented. She was tolerated. At best. Their defense tried to say I seemed fine. That I had a job and an apartment and clearly wasn't suffering that badly. Michael had my therapist take the stand. "Sarah is high-functioning," she said. "Because she had to be. She survived by becoming invisible. That doesn't mean she wasn't shattered inside." The deposition days were my personal Olympics. Rachel raged. Mom cried. David just sweated in his chair and looked like he was trying to dissolve into the wallpaper. My journals were the final blow. One entry from when I was 16 read, "Rachel got a diamond necklace for graduating." I got a card with $75 in it. I told Mom I was happy for her. She didn't even look up. Every detail, every slight, every "we'll see." That meant no, I had it all. In ink. With dates. With feelings. With the kind of unfiltered honesty only a teenager who thinks no one will ever read their words can provide. Rachel's lawyer objected. The judge overruled. The jury sat in stunned silence as my 8th grade entry was read aloud. "Rachel's birthday party is tomorrow. It's at a hotel. I get to serve punch and clean up afterward. I asked if I could have a party too in April. Mom said we'll see." The trial was a reckoning. And I wasn't just fighting for justice anymore. I was reclaiming the years they tried to steal from me. The civil trial lasted 4 weeks, but the real victory came in 7 hours, the time the jury spent deliberating before returning with a verdict that shattered the family legacy forever. They awarded me $4 million in damages, 4 times what we'd asked for. The judge's words still echo in my mind. The defendant's actions were systematic, deliberate, and unconscionable. The courtroom erupted. Mom sobbed into her lawyer's sleeve. Rachel screamed that I'd destroyed her life. David just sat there, hollow-eyed, as if realizing he'd lost everything for the daughter he never truly loved. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just breathed. For the first time in my life, I could breathe. The money was only part of it. The headlines did the rest. House of Horrors in Connecticut. Parents convicted in brutal attack on daughter. Reporters swarmed the courthouse. My story was everywhere, on local news, national morning shows, social media. People recognized me in the street. Some hugged me. Some whispered, "Good for you." Rachel's company fired her. Mom's church revoked her membership. David's construction firm dropped him. Even Adam's pristine career at Goldman Sachs evaporated under the weight of public disgust. Their perfect little world crumbled exactly the way mine had, piece by piece. But I didn't gloat. Not yet. When the court seized their assets, the house, retirement funds, Rachel's BMW, I was there. watching movers pack up the china Mom had guarded her whole life. Watching the wrench collection tagged for evidence. Watching my old room, smaller than a broom closet, stripped bare. It wasn't joy I felt, it was release. Like cutting off a diseased limb to save the rest of yourself. And when the judge signed the final order, transferring every last penny of their wealth into my name, I thought of my younger self, alone in that tiny bedroom, writing in a notebook no one would ever read, and whispered, "We made it." I used the money to do 3 things. First, I paid off my student loans. $90,000 gone in a single wire transfer. Just like that, the weight I'd carried since graduation vanished, and I cried, not from joy, but from the quiet shock of finally being free. Second, I bought a condo in downtown New Haven. Exposed brick, tall windows, my name on the deed. I filled it with things I loved, soft rugs, warm lights, bookshelves that touched the ceiling. It was the first space in my life that felt safe. Mine. Untouched by their judgment. And third, I built a future. I took the remaining funds and founded the Sarah Bennett Foundation, a nonprofit offering legal support, therapy, and emergency housing to young adults estranged from abusive families. We opened our first shelter 6 months after the trial. The first resident was a 19-year-old girl named Sophie, kicked out by her parents for being gay. She'd been sleeping in her car. We gave her a bed, helped her apply for college, got her into therapy. 7 months later, she came into my office, crying. "You saved my life," she whispered. I smiled. "No. You saved your life. We just helped you see that you deserved it." While the foundation grew, I went back to school. Law school. The same girl who once hid bruises under sweaters was now top of her class at Yale. The same hands that used to write desperate journal entries were now drafting legal arguments for survivors like me. I passed the bar on my first try and opened Bennett Legal Services, a firm dedicated to domestic violence and family abuse cases. My first client was a woman named Diana. 3 kids. 13 years of abuse. No job. No options. We got her full custody, financial support, and a clean break from the man who terrorized her. When the verdict came down, she grabbed my hand with both of hers and said, "Thank you for believing me." "Always," I told her. "Always." The civil verdict may have closed the courtroom chapter, but I wasn't done watching justice ripple. I tracked them. Call it obsessive. I call it self-defense. These people, my family, had tried to kill me. Literally. I needed to know they couldn't get close again. So I hired Marcus Rivera, a former FBI investigator turned private security consultant. He didn't ask questions. He just delivered monthly reports, neat folders full of photos and updates, like my own twisted subscription service of retribution. David, my father, did poorly in prison. Construction worker turned inmate number 118074. He kept his head down, tried to blend into the background. But even behind bars, word gets around. A man who helped beat his own daughter? Let's just say his face got introduced to more than one fist in the prison yard. He spent most of his sentence in the library, reading old westerns and avoiding eye contact. Mom didn't fare better. She was soft. Delicate in the fake way that folds in under pressure. Within 6 months, she was on antidepressants, and had lost so much weight her clothes hung on her like bedsheets. She cried on every recorded call to the few friends who hadn't blocked her number. Her cellmates stole her commissary and made her scrub toilets with a toothbrush. "She's not adjusting well," Marcus noted dryly. Rachel was the wild card. Her early prison reports read like a reality TV show gone feral: fights with inmates, attitude with guards, solitary confinement for hurling a tray at someone. But eventually she adapted. Took a job in the prison library, started attending chapel like she was auditioning for sainthood. I wasn't buying it. The girl who once joked that my broken face made me, finally pretty, wasn't suddenly reformed. Adam, of course, had skated by with his slap-on-the-wrist sentence. But Marcus found him, too, back in New Jersey, living with his parents, balding under stress and working at a call center for an insurance company. Once a $400,000 a year finance bro, now a cubicle drone. The photos Marcus sent showed him in khakis 2 sizes too tight, answering phones with a headset duct taped at the ear. Karma wore a headset, apparently. Their lives were wreckage. And I was building something better. By year 3, Bennett Legal Services had grown to a 17-person team, 5 attorneys, 3 paralegals, social workers, intake staff. We took the messy cases. The ones the polished firms wouldn't touch, per clients, complicated custody battles, abuse allegations the system had failed to catch. And we won. A lot. I gave interviews now, carefully curated ones. I spoke about family violence, about invisibility, about how not all abuse leaves bruises. I talked about how Rachel's laughter still echoed sometimes when I closed my eyes. About how the word, "we'll see," could make my stomach turn. But I never gave them the satisfaction of bitterness. I showed my scars. And I showed what I built anyway. I didn't just survive them. I became the thing they feared most. Visible. Powerful. Unafraid. Years passed. My scars faded, though they never fully disappeared. A thin white line near my temple, a barely visible ripple along my jaw. But the migraines from the traumatic brain injury still came and went, sharp, electric reminders of what had been done to me. Therapy helped. Not all at once. Sometimes I left sessions more shattered than when I walked in. But piece by piece, we rebuilt me. Not the girl my family ignored. Not the daughter they dismissed. A woman. Whole. Loud. Visible. My mother died in prison from a heart attack when she was 62. I didn't attend a service. I'm not even sure one happened. David served his full sentence, then disappeared into a trailer park in Arizona. I know because Marcus sent a photo, him sitting alone on a folding chair, staring at the desert. That's the last time I asked for an update. He was already gone in all the ways that mattered. Rachel got out after serving 6 years. She tried to contact me once. A letter. Said she'd found God and wanted to apologize. I burned it without reading past the first paragraph. Some wounds don't deserve closure. I focused on what I was building. The Sarah Bennett Foundation grew fast. Donations poured in. We expanded to multiple shelters, funded therapy for over 500 survivors, helped dozens escape abusive families, and fought for legislative reform in Connecticut. I spoke before the state assembly. Helped pass a bill to classify patterns of emotional neglect as a form of reportable child abuse. But it was law that anchored me. Every time I stepped into a courtroom, I thought of my old self, sitting in a too-small bedroom with beige walls, writing in spiral notebooks just to feel like my voice mattered somewhere. Now I made my voice heard in depositions, in closing arguments, in court orders that kept kids safe and gave survivors their lives back. I even taught a course at Yale for a semester. Law and the Family System. I stood in the same lecture halls where I once doubted if I belonged and looked out at students scribbling my words like gospel. And I did one more thing. I bought a plot of land. Small, overgrown, quiet. And on it I built a house. Not just any house, a home. Full of light and windows and color. No beige. Ever. I planted a tree in the backyard. Watched it grow. Sometimes I sit by it, late at night, and think of her. The girl I was. The girl they tried to erase. And I whisper, you were always enough. And now? Everyone knows it.